Growing fresh potatoes in your home garden is easy and also very rewarding. Let's look at growing potatoes in containers. So we will be starting our potatoes from seeds. These seed potatoes can be bought at any gardening store, and we are planting our seed potatoes in January, which is the ideal month for planting seed potatoes in Southern California. And the reason is that the plants will then emerge in about 6 to 8 weeks, which is when the spring weather sets in, which is nice and warm for growing potatoes very well. The method that we're using to plant our potatoes is the trench method, where we are digging a large hole. In this case, since it's a container, we will be digging to about half the size of the container. So right about in the middle of the container is where we will be planting the seed potatoes. And you can plant about 5 seed potatoes in one whiskey barrel container, as you can see here. And potatoes just love warm weather, and they do not like extremely hot weather. So while the spring season through the summer season is a good time to grow potatoes, you do not want to delay your potato planting too much later into the season. And that is because while potatoes grow very well during the warm spring months, they struggle to grow in the extremely hot summer months that we get here in Southern California. Now, I used to plant potatoes twice a year. However, I've noticed that January is the ideal time to get a good crop of potatoes. So I would recommend planting your potatoes in January and harvest it around summertime. Now, the container mix that we are using is a mix of peat moss, compost, and vermiculite. And this potting mix has remained over from a previous plant that we grew. So we are not making a lot of changes to the soil, but we did add some organic fertilizer. And just to remind everyone, you do need to keep adding organic fertilizers every time you plant a new crop in your container. And that way, over a period of time, it builds good soil. And 49 days since planting, you can see that the plants have emerged and they're looking quite healthy. And at about 75 days, they've developed strong leaves and have used up almost all nutrition from the containers. And this is when you need a liquid fertilizer every 10 days or so. And you can use compost tea, you can use worm tea, you can even use a salt-based liquid fertilizer. It just depends on what you want to go with. 93 days since planting, you can see that the plants have grown quite large leaves. And if you have not used a fertilizer while planting, you can always use an all-purpose fertilizer. The all-purpose fertilizer will cause the plants to grow larger leaves, which in turn will cause the plant to produce more potatoes. And at 165 days, you can see that we are harvesting our potatoes. And we planted 2 sets of crops, 2 containers. And this is a mix of Yukon Gold potatoes as well as the red potatoes. And the Yukon Gold potato is especially susceptible to blight, which is a disease that affects the potato plant. And if it does affect your plant, I would recommend just remove those leaves and stems and your plant will be okay. Now here's a harvest, and it doesn't look like a big harvest, but remember that homegrown potatoes are fresh, delicious, and even if you don't get a big harvest, don't be disheartened because you're still growing organically and you're getting potatoes that are free from growth inhibitors and all the other chemicals that go into the grocery store potatoes. And this is how our harvest looks like. And we will be harvesting our potatoes from the second container as well. And in this container, we have planted the purple potatoes and some other varieties of potatoes. And the purple potatoes were especially very delicious. I was pleasantly surprised at the taste of the purple potatoes. And as you can see, they look beautiful. And they are extremely easy to grow. And you can mix and match different potato varieties when you're growing potatoes in containers. And once again, here you can see we are continuing to harvest our potatoes and they look absolutely amazing. These are the red potatoes that we planted next to the purple potatoes. And we're going to be removing some of the soil from the top so that we can start seeing how many more potatoes are here in this container. Now remember that across containers you may see a variance in how many potatoes are being produced, and that's just because of the fertilizers, the nutrition that's present in the soil. Some may have a little bit more than the other. And you can see here these potatoes, they look amazing. And make sure that you dig up the entire container soil and make sure that you harvest all the potatoes, because some of these potatoes may be hiding deep within the container. And this is one of the benefits of growing with the trench method. The potato not only produces at the bottom but also on the sides as the plant grows up. And these are all the potatoes we harvested, and as you can see here, looks quite good and they're extremely delicious. You can wash them if you want to use them right away, or you can leave them as is if you want to store them. So there we have it, folks. That was our episode on growing potatoes in containers. If you liked this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or comments, do put them in the comments box below. We'll see you again soon. Happy gardening.